Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff. Today we are going to talk about regulatory clarity, government action in specific bills that are going to be introduced by Congressman Darren Soto. These are important, especially right now as we see the SEC case against Ripple. Why are some of the things being said and happening in this case? It might be due to the fact that there's a lack of regulatory clarity in Washington. Let's get into it. Let's talk about that and just a little bit more right now. Let's go.
And now, the HODL Review with Jeff on the Chain.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So, what are we going to get into? What are we going to talk about? We want to talk a little bit about, let me move this. It didn't move. I thought it was going to move. There we go. We moved it over. We want to get into talking about Congressman Darren Soto. He has a suite of crypto and blockchain legislation that he's actually proposed. So Congressman Darren Soto and Congressman Warren Davidson, who we had here on the chain, have been very active partners when it comes to trying to achieve regulatory norms in the cryptocurrency space. Now, we saw Warren Davidson re-proposed, put the bill back out, re-sponsored the Token Taxonomy Act, and Darren Soto has been a co-sponsor of the Token Taxonomy Act from the beginning. And now what we're going to look at here on this video, I want to get into a few, actually specifically four bills that Darren Soto has sponsored, has introduced, and he is going to reintroduce. And they're very, very significant, again, especially with all of the action, with all of the activity that we've seen unfold since December as it pertains to the SEC v. Ripple case, the impact that it has had on XRP and the other digital assets in a short term, potentially in a long term. But we have seen some separation because the faith in the crypto space was really reinvigorated not long after the introduction of that case. But we saw Bitcoin at all-time highs. We've seen Ethereum at all-time highs. We've seen many of the digital assets at all-time highs. And we've seen XRP trailing to get back to following the trend of where the crypto space is going. We've had some comments from SEC Chair Gensler that still give a little bit of confusion in terms of what is going on. Even some of the responses from the SEC to the case seem to be that there's some confusion going on. We don't want a settlement in this case to come out that there's no clarity given to whether or not XRP is a security. However, any kind of true clarity either is going to come out of this case or it is going to come out of action that is proposed in Congress. Congress creates, writes bills. That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. So they are now in this stage, and we have Darren Soto. So let's go over to Darren Soto. Let's look at this article, and let's take a look at some of the things that Darren Soto is in fact presenting again. Now, this all goes back really to 2019 when he introduced some of these bills for the very, very first time. But here we have, so just recently reintroduced Blockchain Technology Coordination Act. He's also considering reintroducing a couple other acts. One is called Digital Taxonomy. The other is called Blockchain Innovation. Then he's got Regulatory Competitiveness. He has Virtual Currency Consumer Protection Act. All of these acts are very, very important. And we're going to see as we get into them how critical they are in fact. So we really want to look at and say, okay, he's proposing the bills, getting them in front of Congress. What is it going to take to get it from Congress to the Senate and in front of the president for a signature? There's a lot that has to happen. So let's start off. Let me go back to the share screen. Let's start off with this HR 3543. Now, HR 3543, which was recently reintroduced, there's Darren Soto, recently reintroduced, and what does it say? To establish an office within the Department of Commerce to coordinate all non-defense related deployment and activities related to blockchain technology within the federal government. So now we know that there's growth and development in the space, even in government, that has something to do with blockchain, potentially has something to do with cryptocurrency. Now, if you want to have a specific department in commerce that's going to oversee it, that also tells us that there's potentially other currency-related items that are being orchestrated within government. So what does the government do? They have logistics, they have tracking of asset inventory, they have payments, they have payroll, they have taxes. There's all these different variables, voting, all these things that could be moved over to blockchain. Maybe. Now, as that happens, you do need some sort of a department that is going to oversee and help coordinate all of these different activities. So there has to be a starting point. Okay, let's go back and see what else we have over here. So in this bill, okay, we get that bill. Let's go to the next bill. What's the next bill? HR 2154. Now this one here is, let's get the title of it. To authorize additional appropriation to the FTC to prevent unfair or deceptive acts or practices relating to digital tokens and transactions relating to digital tokens, and to require a report to Congress on the Commission's actions related to digital tokens. Now, again, this was from 2019 in front of the FTC. This is really important. Again, one of the things that we hear Gensler talk about is we have to protect the consumer. We're worried about the investor. Well, the SEC can only do so much to protect the investor. Congress can help develop certain legislation that is specifically geared to protecting the investor. One of them is to prevent unfair and deceptive practice specifically related to digital tokens and specific transactions related to digital tokens. There are specific exchanges out there that may hide the fact that they're offering you margin. Maybe they use deceptive techniques to get you to trade on margin, maybe to trade on, option trading, whatever it might be. As it develops and grows, they're trying to create these normal trading functionalities within the digital asset platforms. So that's one element that you can look at that's very clear. They did this and they're not worried about their client consumer. But this really spells out specific legislation, regulatory clarity in the space. All right, let's go on to the next one. Now this one he's talking about reintroducing. The next one, HR 8163, again from 2019. This one has to do with, oops, I forgot to share the screen, so let's do that. This one has to do with Blockchain Innovation Act. So this bill would require the Department of Commerce to consult with the FTC, which we saw in the prior bill, and other relevant agencies to study potential application of blockchain tech. So all this bill is doing is getting them to study blockchain tech. So can you imagine where you actually have to pass a bill to get them to study something, to get them to look into something that could be beneficial to our economy, to a lot of things that are happening. But it says the technology that supports digital currency such as, right, we get that, including the use of such tech to address fraud and other unfair, deceptive practice. Now, you start seeing a continuous theme. Now, one of the themes that we see coming from Darren Soto and a lot of these acts that he's trying to pass has to do with protection, has to do with deceptive practice. We're not seeing a lot on how can you help provide regulatory clarity and some norms to see the investors actually be able to grow and earn their money and get some tax clarity and other activity clarity within the space. It's all focused on deceptive practice? How do you protect the consumer from fraud and deceptive practice? So this is now 3 bills in a row that kind of revolve around and address that. But let's go back to 2154. What I want to look at, so here he has one co-sponsor, and his co-sponsor is, in this case, was, look at this, Warren Davidson. Does that name sound familiar? Warren Davidson, sorry. Warren Davidson. So Congressman Warren Davidson was a co-sponsor of 2154, the Digital Taxonomy Act. Now, if we go to 8153, and let's look at the co-sponsor here. Here we have two. We have Rep. Guthrie and Rep. Matsui. Notice a Republican and a Democrat. And this was in 2020. Now let's go to the next bill. The next bill is H.R. 923. This one is U.S. Virtual Currency Market and Regulatory Competitiveness Act. So here, the bill directs the CFTC to report on virtual currency markets and U.S. competitiveness. Again, a bill that is to study, to report on, to investigate. Imagine you have to pass bills to get the organizations within government to actually look into these important technologies. But that's what you have to do. You have to direct them. So how else does the CFTC get the rules of engagement but from Congress in this scenario? CFTC, we direct you under this bill to report on and investigate virtual currency markets in the U.S. and how do you maintain that the U.S. stays competitive? This is interesting. Now, who's the co-sponsor here? Look at this. Names that sound familiar. Ted Budd, Warren Davidson, Tom Emmer, and Ro Khanna. So this was 2019. Now let's go to the next bill. This one is H.R. 922, Virtual Currency Consumer Protection Act. Again, protection. The bill directs the Commodity Future Trading Commission, the CFTC, to report on the potential for price manipulation in virtual currency markets. Again, report on. It's a bill that directs the CFTC to do what you would already expect them to do, but they can't because they have to get direction from Congress with a bill, an act of Congress, to get the CFTC to look into virtual currencies and look into this possibility of price manipulation. I find it amazing. As we go through this, there's always a very clear division amongst the congressional acts in this scenario when it comes to economics. You have the Democrats are always very focused on protection. The Republican side is always very focused on how do you expand on and grow the business and the benefit. You put the two together, this is why you need bipartisan initiative. So you have Darren Soto thinking about consumer protection, Warren Davidson thinking about how do you grow and build the space. You put these two guys together and you have an amazing initiative, an amazing agenda that does everything you want. It protects the consumer and it protects the growth of the space and makes sure that we have a competitive advantage in the United States. So kudos to Darren Soto doing a great job putting more of these acts in front of Congress. Great job to Congressman Warren Davidson for keeping the Token Taxonomy Act alive. Big shout out to those guys. And for everybody here watching, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notifier. Make sure you get notified when we post these videos. And also go check out the other channel in the description below to watch our live streams, which go out Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, until the next video, I will check you out on the next one. Let's go.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.